Um, let's start without further ado. Just brief intros for everyone. Ara, Maurice, Pete, please.
Ara Yeromian. I'm Managing Director at Teachers Venture Growth. It's the venture arm of Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. It's a very large pension plan from Canada. I've joined their office in the UK 4 years ago, where we've been building a growth venture team of 8. We invest in Series B onwards businesses globally. My remit is Europe. Pretty sector agnostic, although B2B SaaS and fintech are my areas of expertise. And yeah, we've got about $1 billion invested in Europe. And I think over time that would expand across EMEA, which hopefully would include Armenia.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Maurice Beckham-Verwey, based in the Netherlands. I have been coming to Armenia now for 8 years. My background is founder turned angel turned VC/LP in several funds. No tech background, purely financial background and entrepreneurial background. And that's it, I think, for now.
Hi everybody, my name is Pete Benedetto. I'm with Endeavor. Endeavor is a global nonprofit organization with a mission to help entrepreneurs dream big, scale up, and pay it forward. We operate in 43 countries around the world, supporting a couple thousand entrepreneurs. 93 of those have become unicorns, so we're big believers that you can start incredible global businesses from anywhere. My work is within the organization. We have a fund called Endeavor Catalyst that invests purely into the network on a rules basis. We're purely a follow-on investor. We've made about 330 investments. 57 of those have become unicorns, about 1 in 6 of our investments. I'm here in Armenia to learn more about this ecosystem. Super excited to be here.
Cool. So yeah, quite different organizations, different stages, early stage, scale-up stage, late stage. So it's going to be really interesting, I think. So generative AI, or generally AI as we call it now, we sometimes call it as a gold rush because it's happening now, changing and disrupting everything. So how do you deal with that? So and what has changed in your organizations, like with this uprising of generative AI in general? So yeah, Ara, you can start.
You mean how we invest in general?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, we've been quite selective in approaching the topic. What is for sure, and you can't deny it, is there is a shift in the way business is done and in the way business are built. And the cycle of innovation and the cycle of adoption of that innovation is accelerating, meaning things are built faster, things are changing faster, and enterprises are adopting those technologies much faster. That means one thing is that companies are built and are dying much faster. And the skill set required to be able to adapt from the founder team, from the C-suite, is critical for us. And I think it's one area where we actually always due diligence heavily. So far, we've done only 2 investments in the space, and both of them are quite late stage. The first one is Databricks, which is intelligence layer platform in the US. The second one is DeepL, which is an AI translation company, also late stage in Germany. Internally, I think we've also changed the way we work. I'm happy to expand.
Like the new tools that came into your life? Yeah.
If you think of the way, my job essentially is very simple. It's 3 things. I need to find company, I need to select them as a good investment opportunity, and I need to win the deal. I think those 3 are very separate in the way it works. And the finding is changing because there's a lot more data, there's a lot more automation, there's a lot more ability to collect and analyze the data to help us find those businesses. In terms of selecting them, I don't think we're yet at the stage where AI is deciding for me, which is good because I have a job, but it is helping the process and augmenting a little bit. I am a little bit later stage investor than those 2, so maybe those tools are a bit more adapted to the early stage investors. And then on winning the deal, I think this is where it's still very human-to-human interaction and requires...
Yeah, still founders and team are the most important thing, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. Maurice?
Yeah, maybe to add to it, it's indeed, first of all, it starts with the persons. And yes, you can collect a lot of data, and data has been around for many years, and it was called the new gold already 10 to 20 years ago. But then it was called big data machine learning. And of course, a lot have changed because of the introduction of ChatGPT. And now more and more people are understanding the advantages of applying this tool, this AI tool. I think the hype cycle, because that's also an interesting thing to look at it, there has been a big hype. It's now, let's say, the air is floating out of it a bit, at least by the early stage investments. But it is still important for us as investors to quickly analyze these hypes that are there for the hype and the ones that are there to really want to solve a problem. Throughout the last 5 years, we've made 20 investments in several AI companies, mostly in Northern Europe. And luckily, that gives me a lot of insight in what is going on. Because for me, it's impossible to keep track on everything that is happening in the AI space. So what for me is important that I know who to call. Because there's AI in the medical field, there's AI in administration, there's AI in legal tech. And there's so much going on. The easiest is just to have a good Rolodex, call the people and understand what is going on to see if they're bullshitting me or not. And that's where I can't use AI yet for. So I hope that it will be there so I can more invest in the relationship.
Bullshit detection?
Bullshit detection, that would be nice. So anyone here that is developing something like that, please reach out to me. Happy to talk.
You know whom to approach after the panel with your startups. So yeah. Pete?
So yeah, to the question of how have we changed, maybe similar to what Ara said, we're sitting on almost 30 years of data in our Salesforce and thousands and thousands of companies that we've looked at and assessed. So we're now using AI tools to actually improve our pattern recognition in terms of the kind of the markers of potential winners down the road. So that's one of the ways that we're using AI in a fairly light way within our own decision-making process as a network. Again, we're a rules-based fund, so a company has to be selected into the network, and then they have to be raising a qualifying round in order for us to invest in them. So they'll have a lead investor in place raising $5 million or more, and we'll come in for up to 10% of the funding round. I think by and large, we haven't changed our investment process or our investment thesis. We continue to be very focused in emerging and underserved markets around the world, believing, while a lot of the attention is being paid to Silicon Valley, into the open AIs and inflection AIs of the world who are at the forefront of this industry. There are incredible companies being built that are leveraging AI, and they have been for years now. One to highlight is a Tunisian-founded company called InstaDeep. They sold for about $700 million last year. If you look at the headlines, it looks like they're headquartered in London, but it's a completely Tunisian team of engineers that built that company. Doing some really cool work in the biotech space. So we're very focused, continue to be very focused in emerging markets. We believe a lot of the talent has come from, if you just take OpenAI, for example, the CTO came from Albania. So we've by and large stuck with our thesis of focusing on those markets.
Cool, thank you. I think this one goes to Maurice and Pete as well, again, because it's more about early stages. And obviously there is hype, obviously there is a lot of enthusiasm happening around AI topic. So how do you guys really evaluate whether it is some kind of a fundamental kind of technology, or it's just a layer? Because it's really easy to start something and to scale to some extent right now, because to gain some early traction, gain some early revenue, etc., which can be really attractive from the first sight. But how you go deep? Like, please elaborate on that, because it's really interesting in your respective organizations. Maurice can start, and then Pete, please.
It's an interesting question. The thing is, as I mentioned earlier, you need to be able to reach out to people to get the right information. And it's all about product market fit. And in my opinion, it doesn't matter if it's AI applied or not. It's more about problem solution. And what is then interesting to also, or important to look into, is the responsibleness of the AI itself. Because the tricky thing is with AI, if you don't know what is happening within the AI itself, then it becomes a beast that you can't control at a certain point. So that's something that we are also always looking into to see if they can explain how the model works. And when you can explain, then you can better judge if it is a responsible AI model or not. So I think that's next to the product market fit, how do they attract, how do they get the data? So also the cleanness of the data is important. But then also, can they explain what is happening over there? If not, then it's a no-go.
Just, do you see early stage companies that try to have some sort of senior advisory board, maybe a recommendation for some people in the room? Do you see that as a way to have that expert that helps you also a little bit biased, but at least someone in the room who's really a great know-how about whatever the product they're building? It's not the CEO, it's not the C-suite. It's close to them to know enough about the business. I thought, because I think on a later stage, we quite often, I need to use experts to bring them and validate, obviously, the technology. So it's quite a lot to unpack in the later stage of, I mean, we start Series B, so sometimes there's not much, but there's quite a lot to unpack. And that's always been a very helpful factor, to have a very expert within the ecosystem of the startup. So I would, I don't know if that's something you would recommend.
No, definitely. And what we set up within our own fund is with Curiosity VC, we created a carried sharing structure. So we have a group of advisors of 16 experts. So the startups that we invest in, they can reach out to them and get their insights. But next to that, we also share part of our carried with the founders that we invest in. And therefore, the founders also reach out to each other a bit more easy. Everybody, all funds are always claiming like, yeah, we have this community, but it's quite difficult to build a strong community and have founders to reach out to each other. But this is a kind of an incentive also to have them reach out to each other and therefore use each other's knowledge. And you invest in a period of 4 years. So you invest sometimes early on, and these grow up within the ecosystem. And you have investors that you invest in a bit later stage. But yeah, we try to also connect them with each other to share knowledge, but also network and to find these advisors, senior people that can help out and give an outside view and do not have a stake in the company, because that's also important, the independency.
And just to clarify, did you introduce this carry sharing model because of this, again, AI thing, because you thought that much more collaboration and much more insights will be needed from the community, from the advisory perspective, etc., or it was just, your general fund model?
No, it's our general belief, sharing is caring, and that it's not only money that you share, but we also pressure our for good reasons, pressure the startup founders to have ESOPs, so employee stock option plans. So why not do something yourself also to the group of people that you want to bring to a next level? And it's not our idea, we copied it from other VCs, and hopefully more VCs will copy it in the future. Because I think it's also a fair way to not only share the knowledge, but also some of the proceeds from the funds.
I think you didn't invent it, but you can brand it. Let's call it VSOP. So, yeah. Pete, what about you? Like how you are, differentiating and doing this deep dive, whether there is some fundamental technology or it's just another layer, or, how do you select in early stages?
Yes, so actually a lot of similarities to what he just shared, that we're also focused on the scale-up stage, so we make sure that our founders have, and their businesses have product market fit before they're selected into the network. So we're not going after those really frontier, cutting-edge technologies and taking that early bet. We're waiting until they have $5 to $10 million in revenue in a fairly clear growth path before we engage and then potentially invest in them. So some similarities there to the guy sitting next to me. Similarly, we leverage our network of 2,000 founders and then a network of 5,000 plus mentors around the world, some of whom are industry leaders and CEO of banks and telcos, and the customers that these founders are serving, and also other founders of similar companies, maybe a similar business model in a different part of the world. So we really leverage that network. to help, yes, to vet the companies, but more importantly, to support them once they're part of the network, to provide guidance, share the learnings that they've received. So we really leverage the network in order to kind of vet the potential of AI solutions. And I think for us, it's, the big focus is, is this solving a real problem in the world, and is this not just, has it moved from the level of theory to really to making an impact? And that's where we look to engage those companies. So.
Very insightful, thanks. Ara, you also, your organization also invests in funds, right?
Correct, yeah.
So how that has changed? Like, what do you see in the VC overall, like thesis changes, like how is that landscape is changing? Or like, are they changing the thesis on the go or setting up some new stuff for just AI or, yeah, please.
So about 80% of what we do at the Ontario Teachers Plan level is direct, and 20% is on average is fund. And my strategy has about the same ratio. So we have about, I don't know if it's 20, 25 partners globally, VC funds in which we invest. They, depending on the stage, some are pre-seed, some are maybe series A, B. But I think depending on the stage, you will see very different sort of behavior. But I would think most of them, unless they have an expert or a niche area like healthcare or deep tech, would have at least built internally a team of experts that can really help them scout the market and understand the difference between a great AI company and overhyped one. But I mean, we're learning from them a lot, and we ourselves have a strategy that we're trying to apply. But we're always going to be looking for at least, if they can have a data moat that the business can show and maintain, which will help them a little bit differentiate themselves from competition. You want to have some degree of vertical or niche expertise that can really help you sort of build a customer user experience, a product that is fit to the problem you're trying to solve for that specific niche, and that in itself will only be better than some horizontal solution. Generalize, not a blanket statement, but in general, especially on the enterprise level, they prefer to really receive something that is fit for purpose. And if there is some sort of regulation or payment or something like that is hard to do that AI will not replace, I think that's also something we will be attracted to. And an example could be a Toast, or even I think Service Titan now does quite a lot of payment, if I recall correctly. And that is an edge that is not software. And integration is different. The regulation is different, and that makes it a bit more attractive. And I think this is a team that I've seen quite a lot with the VC we invest in.
Thank you. We have agreed with you, we'll not touch AI regulation today. But
yes. I heard there was a very long discussion when 10 people over 2-3 hours talk about that specific regulation. I figured it was maybe not right.
But guys, do you think like we are already at a stage where we can talk about like ethical AI, for example? Or are we like on a level already to start looking, from that perspective at the startups? What do you think? Everyone, please, your thoughts.
By no means an expert, so I don't think it would be too relevant for what I'm thinking. But for one example I have is maybe one of my portfolio companies is Allen, it's a health insurance in France. Actually, the founder is Armenian, Jean-Charles Samuel Anverve, and they provide digital care. And they have built an AI tool to support the doctors, and starting to now test a tool to provide sort of a AI doctor for their end customers. But they've first tested it internally. They worked very closely with regulators, and they're very slow at testing it in real situation, because we are treating with people's health, and there could be very negative outcome if things don't go the right way. So you have to be very careful in the way you build it. Obviously, this is healthcare. There are some other areas where I think it's a bit more wild, the Far West, but.
It needs to be ethical in general. The companies that you invest in, you try to figure out what is the business that they're in. I think it's more important to look at, and again, back to the models, are there any biases in there? But what's also interesting to see is that the regulators, and I don't want to touch the subject too much, but the regulators are a bit behind, and that's sometimes a challenge. And a nice example is a big neobank in the Netherlands they created a system using AI to make the processes of know your customer and anti-money laundering way more sufficient, the quality higher. But then the Dutch regulator, they gave them pushback, like, come on, you need to do it accordingly, what we have decided that you need to do. But they could prove that they had a better system. And the good thing is the founder of that bank, he's quite a bold guy, and he said, okay, come on, sue me. And he went into court, and none of the other Dutch banks dared to do it. And in the end, he won the court case because he could convince a judge, like, look at the data. This is what we're talking about. Look at our model, and we can explain what is happening. And one of our portfolio companies helped them with that AI model, so that's why I know a bit more insights there. But the issue is, and that is not only in the Netherlands, that the regulators in different industries, they're behind. And of course, I can understand it partly, but they also need to be open for the innovations that are coming their way and are hitting their industries. So hopefully regulators globally figure out a way to assess these new technologies in a good way, as long as the people can explain it in a good way, of course. So that's a bit my view on the ethical part.
Just to build on that a little bit, not only is it ethical AI, but ethical business. And for us, the emphasis really is it all about the founder. Is this an ethical person? Because it doesn't matter if it's an AI business or a fintech. You can be in all sorts of industries, right? We've seen fraud across the board. You can pick an example, and so that's why we spend a lot of time. We spend months and sometimes years getting to know founders. When I say months, we're talking 9 to 18 months before a company is selected into the network. It's also very much a community-based model where it's not just a one-off. They're being invited into a community that's all about them kind of giving back and paying forward. So there's hopefully some natural vetting there for really ethical. And, so far so good, but finding ethical individuals who have that kind of greater aspiration to give back and pay forward. So for us, it's really about the founder and whether trusting them with their AI tool or just leading their business in general. That's where we tend to kind of emphasize.
I would say 100% for me as well. The founder, obviously, as a leader, is a core element. And if I have any doubt about the person, I'm not interested in investing. Just because we're a long-term investor, and I know I will be spending a lot of time with that person through good times and difficult times, and those difficult times are difficult if the founder has unethical behaviors.
Oh, absolutely. This business is still founder-driven, so we have to be really careful about the founders and make sure that we really believe in what they do and trust. And it will be the most important thing that will last, I think, till the end of the relationship. And what you guys,
one thing I would like to add is that we're talking about due diligence on the founders, but please, if there are founders in the room, also do your due diligence on VCs, because there are also some shitty VCs out there. So better do good due diligence on them, and how ethical are they? Because it could contaminate you and your company for the long run if you do business with the wrong people. This is what we try to prevent. But it's also something that you need to prevent. And what I've seen in the past, that not all founders are that open to do their own due diligence. But please do it yourselves too. Talk to portfolio founders, cold call them. And I'm okay, and probably these guys are also okay if you reach out to their portfolio founders to check on us. It doesn't happen that much, in my opinion, but start doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, this is a two-way street, and even it can be just not about shittiness of the VC or stuff, but you have to find the perfect match actually, because this relationship again is going to last for at least 7-10 years, maybe even longer. So you have to really be sure that you can work with these guys, so that they'll not ruin your business, your day, and life overall, because sometimes for founders, startup is also their big chunk of their part of their lives.
And you want to ask about the fund, you want to ask about the person who's going to be on the board. Sometimes it's not the same as the fund. And 3, you want to make sure to understand where they are in their funding structure, when are they funding again, because this unfortunately will influence sometimes the decision they make, which might not be as relevant to, or not relevant, but might not be the best for you as a company. So these are the questions you want to ask. And yes, 100% call 2, 3, 4, 5 of their of founder. Ideally, if there is a founder that they've exited, so at least there is a bit less of a, there's maybe more openness in some of the problems they might have.
As we are moving with the advices to the founders, let's also give some advice from your experiences about this AI movement, like where is it moving, and what the founders need to focus on in terms of starting their companies or reshaping, pivoting. What would be your advice from that perspective? Or you can start. Yeah.
I think it's changing every 3 months, so I'm not sure about the 5-year plan here. Okay, for what I've seen that I liked, maybe that's the easy way to think about it, is I love when I have a reference call with a company's customer. I do a lot of B2B SaaS, so an enterprise, for example, and the response is, I cannot be at the edge of this innovation, AI. It's just impossible, and my team cannot follow. I need to trust that the software and the partner that I'm using is doing the work. In early stages, it's a bit harder, but I think as you grow into, you just need to be able to show to your B2B a customer that you are doing the work, that you're at the edge of what's happening, so they don't have to. And then you become a partner. Even though maybe some of that LLM fundamental is commoditized and they're large horizontal player in the space invading you, if they feel like you're adding that value, they're willing to give you, spend money on your software. And that takes, I think, it's very difficult because as I said earlier, the cycle of innovation is accelerating. So it's harder and harder for founders and the team and the software that they have that might need to be adapted to the changing landscape, the changing model that's happening very quickly.
Yeah, so everyone was thinking that AI will make it easier, but I guess it's adding another complicated layers.
It's going to happen. I mean, I think right now it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of use cases. I think everyone heard about Klarna and the big statement. I think this is the peak of the iceberg. Yeah. And there's going to be the adoption, the understanding of what can be done, what are the use cases. 2025, maybe 2026, but I think in 2025, it will be a big shift in, and we can see next year when we talk again, when the adoption curve is going to increase. And there is hype sometimes in valuation, but I think in the tool and the use cases and the possibility, it's exponential.
Cool, thank you. Maurice?
Yeah, to add to it, I think you can use so many systems now out there, so many toolings out there for cheap, and therefore you can focus on your own product. But you can also learn from all the solutions that are out there currently. So what we usually ask in also the introduction calls that we have with founders is, okay, what are you using yourself? And why are you using it? How are you using it? Also to get a better understanding of how they also look themselves at new technology that is out there and their learnings. Because that also gives us a bit more insight how they also select certain tooling out there. And next to the fact that it's also good to learn from the others, you can optimize your time greatly now with the AI tools that are out there. And one you will use maybe for 6 months because suddenly a competing solution will be out there and you will start using that one. That's not a problem, but it will also give you the insights to use as inspiration for your own product development. Because things are moving really fast nowadays. And not too fast, but you depend also a bit on what you take from it, from what is going on in the outside world. But also don't be too distracted by looking into too broad way. Keep it maybe first of all to your own industry because enough will be happening in that industry itself. So those are some of the things I would recommend, and that's some things that we also ask about.
Cool, thank you. Pete?
Yeah, just real quick. It's always, being the last one, it's tough to add anything super original and new, but I always try. But I'd say we continue to hope that with AI and the efficiencies that companies are able to gain in things, take example, coding assistance, that it's, the things like that lower the cost of scaling a startup. So hopefully that trend continues, which then encourages more and more people to get into startups, to launch more ventures, and makes that journey more capital efficient, And I think our hope is that you see places, one thing that's always stuck out to me is that there's actually more AI talent in Europe than there is in the US. However, if you look at the funding, it's been far more concentrated in the US market. So obviously, Europe is just one example. There's obviously a ton of AI talent here in Armenia as well. So one of the things that we hope is that that trend continues, and so as the cost, as the amount of capital needed lowers, and so maybe that starts to favor markets like Europe and here, and so it just makes it more possible for people to start and grow businesses in this field. So it's kind of one thing.
I think it's the amount of capital and also the amount of people. I think we're discussing it earlier. That's the edge that Armenia can benefit from. You don't need as much capital, and you don't need as many people.
Yeah.
Meaning, 2 people can create what maybe 20 or 30 used to. And I know the scale of the community has always been a bit more of a constraint, although it's growing, and that is essentially negating that problem. So that's why I'm very hopeful that more and more sort of talented individuals will come out of this ecosystem and build big companies.
Yeah. Oh, I'm bullish on the ecosystem. So did you
That's
already invest
you.
in the ecosystem? Did you guys already invest here?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay, that's positive. Not yet either?
Not yet.
Okay. Soon they will invest. So they're going to distribute some capital in the region.
Sounds like a promise. Perfect. This is how we conclude the panel. Build value, create relationships, and make due diligence on both sides, actually, both as a VC and as a founder. Thank you. Aura, Maurice, Pete, thanks for the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.